Welcome to Barca News. It is August 27th, 2025. And ladies and gentlemen, the technicians who have visited the Camp Nou have found some problems. Also, today, Barcelona met with a delegation from Mallorca for 2.5 hours. I'm going to tell you what that meeting was about. And finally, Barcelona have offloaded 2 players during today. You have a lot to discuss. So let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Bo. This is the Barca News live podcast, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but where I get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting the discussion going. And of course, I get to do this live. This is why podcast days are my favorite days, which of course are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. For those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description, chapters in the timeline, in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all of that, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All of these are free and help the channel continue to grow. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, including, the 3 new kits for this season, you're going to head to Goal Kits, Kit Bag, or Fanatics. If you are looking to place any sports bets, not just on Barcelona matches, but on any sporting event around the world, boxing, UFC, ping pong, whatever, you can head to Bet Us, where if you click on the link, you get $150 free to bet. And if you click on the links of the stores that sell Barcelona's merchandise, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers, of course, courtesy of Barca News. So hit those links. You help the channel and you help yourselves. But anyways, I do have an announcement real quick before we get into the news. Tomorrow, I am leaving on a short vacation because I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I've been working so much. I'm going to be out from Thursday night until Tuesday night, so 5 days. But don't worry, I will be taking my camera with me, and I will be making daily videos. But as always, when I travel, I do live videos, so it'll be like this, but it won't be a podcast, right? It'll be just a live video, 10, 12 minutes, just to give you the latest news on Barca. I won't read the comments. So that means, of course, no podcast on Friday. That means no watch along on, when is the match? Saturday or Sunday? I can't remember. Anyway, so no watch along, no podcast, but of course, daily videos, even when I'm on vacation, even when I'm traveling, because this news does not stop, and neither do I. All right, let's begin with the news. And as always, that first segment of news is comprised of multiple bits of news. But with this one, it's all about the stadium. We're starting with, check out the, wrong slide. Here we go. Still getting used to my new software. There we go. All right. Check out these images today. These are the most recent images of the Camp Nou taken today, August 27th. And if you can't see it up close, don't worry. The next picture is up close. But the construction company, Limac, has already started to pour cement on the 3rd ring or the 3rd level of this stadium, which means that, the biggest part of the project, or the hardest part of the project, which is the structure itself, is nearing completion. And of course, that's the part that takes the longest. It's the structure itself. Once the structure is completely done, everything else is just going to be cosmetic, right? Installing floors, walls, lights, seating, painting, whatever, right? That's more, less complex stuff. Let's put it that way. Less time-consuming stuff. The more complex things, the more time-consuming things are the structure itself. And, well, Limac have already started pouring cement on the 3rd level, which means that the structure is nearly done. And here is a close-up. As you can see there, you can see the cement that's poured right there on the right. You can't see through it. While the other sections, you can see the sky because the cement hasn't been poured yet. But this is very important development because, again, it means that the structure is nearly done. And once the structure is fully done, of course, the next step will be, the cosmetic stuff, which is not as complex. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the stadium is ready and tomorrow we're going to be back in it. This just, it's pretty cool to see the progress, going along and then the stadium being completed slowly, because I have no doubt that no matter how long the stadium takes, once it's done, it will be one of the best stadiums in the entire world. Not just Europe, in the entire world. And honestly, I cannot wait to go and watch a match. Now, speaking of the Camp Nou, now we got to move on to the bad news. This is the good news. Third ring starting to being completed. The bad news is that today, technicians from the city commission or the city council, the fire department, and the police department all visited the Camp Nou to do an inspection. As you know, Barcelona have officially received the certificate of completion from the construction company Limex, saying, hey, sections Gol Sud and Tribuna, which are the two sections that will reopen for hopefully the Valencia match under the 1A phase, which is the phase where Barcelona would return to the Camp Nou with 27,000 people capacity. So that Barcelona received the certificate from Limex saying that those two sections are ready. They submitted that certificate to the city saying, hey, those sections are ready. Come inspect us. The city was like, all right, bro, I got you. I'm going to go inspect you. So technicians from the city, from the police department, and from the fire department arrived today to inspect those two sections, the Tribuna and the Gol Sud sections, that, again, will host 27,000 people. And they found a lot of problems. They found a lot of problems that Barcelona are going to have to work on before Monday. I know, that's a short period of time. Now, what problems did these technicians found? Well, they found problems that include signage, emergency exit indicators, that's a big one. Security control room, it wasn't finished. Dressing problems with the dressing rooms, the food service zones, and the medical and Red Cross facilities. So the technicians found problems in all these areas. Barcelona are gonna, or the construction company, are gonna have to work really hard on fixing all these problems that the city, the police, and the fire department found. And on Monday, I said by Monday, this is not a random deadline. On Monday, there's an emergency meeting of the city council of the city of Barcelona where they're going to decide whether the stadium, well, not the full stadium, but the two sections, Gol Sud and Tribuna, are ready to host Barcelona's first home match, which is Valencia on the weekend of September 14th. So, ideally, the construction crews will be able to fix all these problems that the city found from here until Monday. And ideally, on Monday, the city council will meet and say, you know what? Those two sections, Gol Sud and Tribuna, are ready to host people. And then they would give Barcelona the occupancy permit to reopen only those two sections. Again, Gol Sud and Tribuna, that would only host 27,000 people. And now Barcelona would be able to host the Valencia match, which is the first home match of the season. Now, in case the city cannot or will not give the permit to Barcelona by that weekend, by the September 14th weekend, there are two alternatives on where we could play the Valencia match. The first alternative is, of course, Montilivi, which I already talked about. That's Girona Stadium. On that weekend, Girona is playing away, so their stadium is available. We could play there. But it seems like Barcelona are not leaning towards that option. Instead, they're leaning towards the Johan Cruyff option. Now, how do I know this? I know this because today, inspectors from La Liga were seen visiting the Estadi Johan Cruyff. Estadi Johan Cruyff is outside of the city. It's where the Barca Femini and the Barca Athletic play. I've been to the stadium. Very beautiful stadium. But of course, a tiny stadium that can only host 5,000 to 6,000 people. Today, La Liga inspectors were seen visiting the stadium, which indicates that Barcelona are leaning towards playing the Valencia match at the Johan Cruyff Stadium, where they played the Como match, or the Joan Gamper match, against Como. Now, what's the problems with hosting the match at the Johan Cruyff? Well, there's two problems. As I told you before, the stadium does not meet La Liga's regulations. La Liga requires a minimum capacity of 8,000 people. Stade Johan Cruyff can only host 5 to 6, so that's below. However, Barcelona are hoping to negotiate an exception with La Liga, saying, hey, look, I know the stadium doesn't mean La Liga requirement, but I promise this is only for one match, which is against Valencia. After that, we'll be back at the Camp Nou. If the Camp Nou is not ready, we'll be back at Montjuic. But this is only going to be for one match and one match only, which is against Valencia, and that's it. After that, we'll figure it out, Camp Nou or Montjuic. So Barcelona are hoping to get the approval for a one-time exception to play at the Johan Cruyff with 6,000 people capacity instead of the minimum of 8. The other problem that Barcelona face, VAR, right? The Johan Cruyff Stadium does not have VAR because there is no VAR in 3rd or 4th division. Last season, Barcelona were in 3rd division, now they're 4th. So they would have to install a VAR, which is not a big problem because Barcelona were already planning to install VAR because this season they're going to be using VAR in the Women's League. So they're going to have to install it either way for the Barca Femini matches. So the VAR is not a problem, but Barcelona will have to reach an agreement with La Liga for an exception to host the Valencia match and Valencia match only at the Johan Cruyff Stadium. After that, Barcelona will either return to the Camp Nou or, if the Camp Nou is not ready, return to the Olympic Stadium at Montjuic. Now, again, this is only if on Monday the city says the stadium is not ready for the weekend of September 14th. If the city says you guys are ready, obviously September 14th, we're back at the Camp Nou, none of this matters. But if the city says you're not ready, you're not going to get your permit for the September 14th weekend, then Barcelona will play Valencia match at the Johan Cruyff Stadium. After that, Barcelona will go back to the city. Hey, are we ready? If we are, great. We continue at the Camp. We start at the Camp Nou. If not, there's the Olympic Stadium. Anyways, that is all the updates in regards to the Camp Nou. Now, let's start with the comment section. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the meeting that today where Barcelona met with Mallorca delegation for 2.5 hours. I'm going to tell you why. All right, let's start with the comments. But, of course, first, I got to wear my glasses. Why? Well, because I'm an old man. All right, let's see. Comment section. Super Ice says, hey, Mo, I hope to see Martin and Tech on the team sheet Sunday. I hope so, too. I got news about that. Don't worry, I got you. Jason Matias says, hey, Mo, I recently had my ACL replaced, and I was thinking of getting the third kit with Gavi's name on it. What do you think? Should I get the third kit or the second kit? I like both. Well, my friend, I'm sorry you had to go through that. ACL injuries are always incredibly painful and very lengthy when it comes to recovery. Thankfully, I've never had to go through that, so I'm sorry you had to go through that. But I wish you a speedy recovery. As far as the kits, I would go with the second. The second is my favorite this season. I love the Kobe Bryant collaboration. I'm not a basketball fan. I'm not like a Kobe Bryant fan or by any means, but I really like this crossover of sports, right? You know, a football team collaborating with a basketball athlete, well, a late basketball athlete. I think that's pretty cool. Plus, it is Kobe Bryant. Even though I'm not a basketball fan, he is still a legend of the sport of basketball. So either way, I think it's a pretty cool collaboration. I love the colors. I like the purple combination with the, I guess, cream, you might call it. So that's my favorite. That's what I would get. That's actually what I got. I got the Kobe Bryant kit or the away kit, the Black Mamba kit, whatever you want to call it. That's the one I got. And that's who exactly I got. Gabi. I got Gabi on the back because I love Gabi. I think he is an excellent, highly underrated player. People think he's just, aggressive and runs a lot, and he's way more than that. He's very technically able. He can defend, he can attack, he can build, he can destroy. I really like Gabi, and again, the fact that he went through all of that, his injury, his surgery, his recovery to come back stronger than ever, I think I love it. And, there's There's no one more culé than Gabi right now on the team. Not that I'm taking away from the other players' fandom or love or loyalty to the club, but Gabi is the exemplification of what a true culé is and an academy graduate is. So I would get the away kit, but either way, getting Gabi, I think that's a great decision. And again, I wish you a speedy recovery. And Java the Hut says it's annoying how Barca can't get any money for players that they offload, but a team like Chelsea, even though they sign players like crazy, are constantly offloading players with less of a fuss. I agree. I think part of it is that other clubs try to take advantage. They know that Barcelona are in a bad financial situation, that they're up the neck with financial fair play, and they take advantage of that. But another part is that we really are terrible at selling. Now, we're not a selling club, that's for sure, and that's good because if you're not a selling club, you're a buying club. Sorry, yeah, okay. And I would much rather be a buying club than a selling club. Why? Because selling clubs are in the business of developing players to sell them and make profit. A club like Barca is in the business of developing players to keep them so they can win them trophy, and to sign players to keep them and sign and win trophies, right? So I much rather be a buying club than a selling club, right? Because a selling club would mean, oh, hey, Lamine Yamal, he came up through the academy, he didn't cost us anything. Oh, now he's a superstar. Let's sell him for 250 mil. Boom, cha-ching, big money. Oh, Pedri, we signed him for 10 mil. Now he's a superstar. Let's sell him for 150. Cha-ching. Guarci came up through the academy. Didn't cost us anything. And now he's a superstar. We can sell him for 80. Cha-ching. Right? That's what a selling club does. They develop players since they're kids, turn them into superstars so they can sell them and make money, or they sign players on the low. Once their price goes up, they sell them for profit. That's what selling clubs do. And I would much rather be a buying club, a club that keeps its players to win trophies and not sells the players with the intention of making money. But having said that, I do think we are terrible at selling. Suf says, so Chelsea thinks Fermin is worth 50 mil, so Noni Menukek is better. Is their view flea market at time at Barca, I guess, if they accept this shit. We'll talk about Fermin Lopez in a little bit, but yeah, I think he's worth more than 50 mil. I mean, when you look at players like, Subimendi and players like that being sold for in crazy amounts, I'm like, seriously? Arnold says, hey, Mo, I'm glad to catch a live podcast again after a long time. Thanks for your consistency and accuracy on Barca News. No, thank you, my friend. Thank you, and thank all of you who are watching. As I always say, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be just a crazy guy yelling at his camera. So none of this means anything if it wasn't for you. So thank you, and thank all of you who are currently watching. And Be Real says, Man U is irrelevant to us. That's where you're wrong, my friend. Man U is irrelevant, period, not just to us. Just kidding. I like to bag on Man U. Emmanuel says, Mo, long time, bro. I'm so happy to be on your live tonight, bro. I'm happy you're here, my friend. I'm really happy you're here. I'm happy that all of you are here. I'm happy to be on the podcast, period. I love podcasts. I love reading your comments, you guys' comments live. I like responding to them live. Podcast days are my favorite days, period. Super Ice says, Mo, if we have to sell Fermin Lopez, how much should we sell him for? At least 70 mil. At least. Anything below, we're just getting robbed. And Prav says, hey, Mo, Justice Boya from the Gambia. Thank you so much for always keeping us posted and giving us updates about our beloved club. Guys, subscribe to the channel and like it to have the channel grow. No, thank you, my friend. And yes, please hit that like button. The like button is actually huge. It's a great way to help the channel. When you hit the like button, it prompts the algorithm to promote the channel to people who've never seen it. So yeah, subscribe button. It's great, amazing. It gives me, it lets me know that the channel is growing. But when you hit the like, you're promoting the channel to people who've never seen it. And my man Choo Choo with the generous donation. Thank you so much, my friend. Says, Mo, how's your day? Do you think Dro and Guille can replace Fermin if or when he leaves the club? Well, first of all, thank you for the donation. And my day is going great. Why? Because I'm here on the podcast with all of you. I hope your day is going great. Let me know about your day too in the chat section. I'll make sure to read it. As far as Dro and Guille, I think so. I think Dro has. I don't know about Guille. Okay, let's separate the two. As far as Guille, I think he has. What I really like about Guille is his physique, and I don't mean to sound gay, but I mean that because he is tall, he's big, he's strong. He has a really developed physique for someone his age, which is 17 years old. So I really like that. That's something, of course, that is lacking in Barcelona's midfield. Most of our players are much smaller. Even though, again, as I've said many times, I don't believe that we need a physical player. Barcelona tactics is all about being technically able. Our greatest midfielders ever, Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi, none of them were physical guys whatsoever. I mean, Iniesta and Xavi, tiny, short dudes. Busquets, sure, he was tall, but he was skinny as a twig. If strong wind blew, he would break in two. But yet, the three greatest midfielders in our history, probably some of the greatest midfielders in the history of football, period, right? So we don't necessarily need a physical midfielder. But, in Guilla, I do see that physical attributes that our midfield lacks, which I see it in Bernal as well, by the way. As far as Dro, I think Dro is just incredibly talented. I think Dro is one of those guys who has that special talent that you don't really see that much. Because there's good players all the time. There's good players in all clubs. There's good players in all academy. But there's a difference between good players and special players, right? There's a difference there. And I think Dro has a potential of being one of those special players. I'm not saying he is right now because he's not there yet, right? He hasn't played enough. He hasn't developed yet. But he has the potential of being a special player. And when you have a special player, you have to hold on to him. A special player will be someone like Lamine, like Kouarsi, like Bernal. Those are special players. There's special players and there's good players. And special players are very rare. And I think Dro could be one of those specials. As far as Guilla, I think he could be a good player or a great player. I don't know if he's necessarily special. Does that make sense? Anyways. All right, let's get back to the news. Because, ladies and gentlemen, today, Barcelona met with a delegation from Mallorca. And I don't mean the island, I mean the club. Well, the club is located in the island. But you know what I mean. For 2.5 hours at the Ciudad Esportiva. And the reason for that meeting was in order to discuss 3 players. Now, the first player that was discussed during that meeting was Héctor Fort. Now, as you know, Barcelona are hoping to send Héctor Fort on loan. They know that Hansi Flick does not count on the player. Hansi Flick, counts on both Jules Koundé and Eric Garcia as his 2 right backs. So that leaves Héctor Fort with no place on the first team. And of course, Héctor Fort is at a period of his career where he needs to be playing in order to grow and develop and get better. And if he doesn't get those minutes, he risks stagnating and plateauing. And that's not something Barcelona want. Now, Deco's policy has been pretty straightforward. Players who don't have a place on the first team, sell them, make some money off of them, while at the same time maintaining control on the player by retaining the buyback clause and by owning a percentage of their rights, like they did with Pablo Torre. That way, if they do end up blowing up, you can always buy them back. Now, despite that has been Deco's policy with all the players that don't have a space on the first team, he has decided that in the case of Héctor Fort, it's worth betting on him. That he sees potential in Héctor Fort, where if he gets more minutes, he can end up being that great right back that he hopes him to be. So instead of offloading him on a permanent transfer, Deco is hoping to loan him out so he can play a full season with another team and then hopefully reach the potential that Deco believes Héctor Fort possesses. So what are the players that Barcelona talked about during today's meeting with Mallorca's delegation? Was Héctor Fort and the possibility of Héctor Fort being loaned out to Mallorca for 1 season. Now, of course, Héctor Fort does have interest from other clubs, including Como in the Serie A, Paris FC in the league. Paris FC, by the way, they just got promoted. Their stadium is literally across the street from PSG Stadium. Also, some Premier League teams, but one of the players that we've been talked about. We'll see what happens, whether Héctor Fort ends up leaving to Mallorca or not. I think wherever he ends up, whether Mallorca or somewhere else, he needs to leave. And I don't say that because I'm trying to be mean. I say that because Héctor Fort needs to be playing. He's 19 years old. He needs to be playing. He's not going to be playing under Flick. He needs to play so for his own sake, I really do hope that he leaves regardless of whether he goes. The second player that Barcelona discussed with the Mallorca delegation today during that 2.5-hour meeting was Dani Rodriguez. Now, Dani Rodriguez is someone that Flick has been tracking for quite some time, has been very interested in him. In fact, it was Flick that gave Dani Rodriguez his debut with the first team last season. And unfortunately, during his debut, he injured his shoulder and had to undergo surgery. And even though Flick had plans to call up Dani Rodriguez to the preseason, those plans all fell apart because of that injury. So Dani Rodriguez, missing his chance to impress Flick during the preseason. He also saw that other players surpassed him. Barcelona signed Rashford, Rooney Bardaghji. So now Dani Rodriguez is another player without a spot on the first team. So Barcelona are looking to offload him on a permanent basis while maintaining control on his future, percentage of his rights, buyback clause, something like that. So that's another player that was discussed. Now, Hector Ford, Dani Rodriguez were discussed. No agreements. They were simply negotiations. Now, let's talk about the third player, because this player, an agreement was actually reached. And this player is Jean Virgili, a player that Barcelona believe he has grown a lot, that has potential. Hansi Flick called him up to the preseason, did that training with the preseason with the first team, but Flick still believed that he wasn't quite ready yet, so he ended up sending him back down to Barca Athletic and did not call him up to the preseason tour in Asia. And of course, Virgili believing that he had outgrown 4th division with Barca Athletic and seeing that he didn't have a spot on the first team with the signing of Rashford and Rooney Bardaghji, decided that maybe it's better to go somewhere else. So today, Barcelona discussed Jean Virgili with Mallorca, and lo and behold, an agreement was reached for the transfer of the 19-year-old winger for 3.5 million euros, and Barcelona will retain 50% of his rights, and they will also reserve a buyback clause. So Jean Virgili has been transferred to Mallorca just like Pablo Torre. And again, if he ends up blowing up, Barcelona have a buyback clause to bring him back. And even if he does end up blowing up, but Barcelona don't want to bring him back, they own 50% of his rights. So if Mallorca end up selling him for a big chunk in the future, Barcelona would get 50% of that. So that's the news. Jean Virgili has officially left Barcelona to Mallorca. We'll see what happens with Hector Ford and Dani Rodriguez. Again, after that 2.5-hour meeting between the club and Mallorca delegation. All right, let's get back to the news. Let me see, where did I leave off? And then we are going to talk about the other player that Barcelona offloaded today. All right, let's see. Ah, there we go. This is where I left off. My man Shin says it's just time to relax and accept the unfortunate fate that will be playing in the Olympic Stadium for the 4th season in a row. I'm afraid I see the stadium drama going nowhere. So it's actually, it would be the 3rd season, but I got to say this. I am not holding my breath either way. I am not, thinking I'm going back to the Camp Nou. I'm not thinking I'm going back to the Olympic Stadium. As you know, as of late, I have taken a new stance when it comes to this board, and that stance is see it to believe it. If the board says we're playing at the Camp Nou, I will not believe it until I actually see the team playing at the Camp Nou. If they say we're playing at the Olympic Stadium, I'm still not going to believe it until I see the team actually playing at the Olympic Stadium. So that's my new stance as far as this board. It's see it to believe it. Of course, I would much prefer play at Camp Nou, but at this point, I'm just waiting. Whatever happens, happens. When it happens, I'll report about it. Otherwise, I am not holding my breath for anything. I am not thinking this or that. It's just whatever happens, happens. I think it's a much healthier way of looking at these things with when it comes to this board. And Yeetzy says, Mo, will we even be around when the Camp Nou is finished? Serious question, though. Does this mean we will not be playing in the Champions League knockout stages? Wait, what do you mean will we be around? Are you saying we're going to all die? That the world is ending? Because if it is, then no, we won't be around. But in all seriousness, is Barcelona have communicated to UEFA that their intention is to play at the Camp Nou. Of course, again, that Monday meeting with the city, that's going to be crucial. But what's the problem? The deadline is tomorrow. Tomorrow is the deadline to notify UEFA. Now, UEFA are going to notify, Barcelona are going to want to notify UEFA that, hey, we're going to play at the Camp Nou. But the problem is what happens on Monday. If Monday, the city's like, you're not getting the permit, then that causes a problem. But, and here's a big but, because I like big butts and I cannot lie. Barcelona have gotten an agreement with UEFA to play the first match of the Champions League away. Okay? So even though the deadline is tomorrow, Barcelona could tell UEFA tomorrow we'll play at the Camp Nou. And then comes Monday, and the city council says, okay, the stadium is not ready for the Valencia match. So Barcelona would go to the Johan Cruyff, play the Valencia match. That would still buy us more time. And then hopefully the Camp Nou would be ready. And even though we already told UEFA that we're playing at the Camp Nou, technically Barcelona have until September 30th / October 1st weekend to finish going back to the Camp Nou, right? Because the first away match the first Champions League match is gonna be played away. So Barcelona still have more time for the Champions League. Now, the thing with the Champions League is that not only does Phase 1A has to be completed, which is Gol Sud and Tribuna, which hosts 27,000 people, they also need 1B phase completed, which is the phase that will host 45,000 people. Why? Because 1B phase is the phase that includes one of the lateral stands. And UEFA requires that their stadium that are going to host Champions League matches have at least one lateral stand available for the fans. So there's a lot of moving parts. We'll see what happens. Let's just put it that way. Innocent says, hi, Mo. In my opinion, we're going to offload Cazador to raise funds. We have a lot of midfield, and Bernat will join the team soon. I'll talk about that a little bit in a while. Randomized says, very tough situation. Hopefully a miracle can happen. Fingers crossed. Hopefully. Oh, and I see a donation from Sanjog. Before I forget. My man Sanjog, thank you so much, my friend, for your generosity. Always supporting the channel. Always being incredibly generous. But says, I feel so bad for Flick. The guy came to the club knowing the situation that we can't buy players. All he wanted was to keep the current players, put Flick in Real Madrid, and he would win a treble. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I was like so upset when there was talks about selling Cazador. Because I was like, I mean, literally, this guy comes here to the club, says, look, I understand you have no money, no financial for players. So don't worry. You don't have to sign anyone for me. I will now request from you to sign anyone for me. I'm going to come here and I'm going to do whatever I can with whatever you give me. And that's literally what he does. He takes whatever he had and turns it into one of the best teams in all of Europe and wins 3 trophies during his first season. I mean, that's incredible. Every big team that signs a new coach, the first thing that coach does, all right, I want you to sign me this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy and bam, 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 bam. And still, they still don't win anything in their first season because it's normal, right? Projects take time. No. Flick wins 3 trophies his first season. That's already a miracle. And he does it without requesting a single signing. Just with whatever the club gave him. And now, they're trying to take away from what the club gave him. And it's like, bro, he's already not demanding anything, and you want to take away from what he has? Like, how is that fair to Flick? But I agree with you. Let's do a couple more comments, and then we'll go back to the news. Thank you, my friend, for your donation. Musa says, Mo, how are you doing today? I'm doing great. I'm doing the podcast. So no better thing than this. And Mustafa says, Mo, what is the update on Lopez? Don't worry, I got you with the update in a little bit. And Zayd says, who do you think is an optional striker option for Barca when Lewy leaves? It looks like Flick would like Nick Wolterman. He's out in the Bundesliga. That's who he wants. The problem, of course, price and plenty of other clubs want him too. So we'll see. Of course, we still have a full season. It's a very long time. We'll see what happens. And Chuchu says, I'm having a great day. Why? It's podcast day. Amen, my friend. Podcast days are always great, great days. All right, let's get back to the news because we do have to talk about the second departure of today. As I already told you, Gianbergili has agreed to join Mallorca for 3.5 million euros. Barcelona retaining 50% of his rights plus a buyback clause. And well, now we have another player who has left the club, and it's no other than Inaki Pena. Of course, this departure was very much expected. As I told you a few days ago, Elche had joined the race pretty late for Inaki Pena. Inaki Pena, of course, had other clubs interested in him, including Como, Celta Vigo, Galatasaray, some Saudi teams. But once Elche entered the race, that was kind of like the club that caught the attention of Inaki Pena the most. First of all, they were offering him, an important role on their squad, and second of all, that's where he's from, right? Elche, they're located in the region of Alicante, and that's where Inaki Pena originally is from. Now, I'm not saying the academy, I'm saying the region, right? Inaki Pena actually came up through La Masia, but originally he is from Alicante, which is where Elche is located. So not only did Elche offer him an important role, but they also, of course, offered him, hey, return home, return to your soil. I don't fucking know. Anyways, so it seemed to be the most viable or the most interesting part for Inaki Pena. Agreement had been reached. Inaki Pena was in favor of joining. The only thing standing in the way was for Inaki Pena to extend his contract with Barcelona, because Inaki's contract expired next summer, 2026. And Elche and most of the other clubs could only take Inaki on a loan. So, obviously, if you send him on a loan, his contract expires next summer, well, he becomes a free agent, and then whatever club took him on a loan ends up keeping him for free. So instead, Barcelona wanted to extend the contract of Inaki. That way you can send him on loan for one season. Hopefully he plays the entire season. Value goes up, and next summer, you're like, all right, now he's worth more. Pay up. Well, lo and behold, that's exactly what happened today. Barcelona finalized the negotiations. They have extended the contract of Inaki Pena from 2026 until 2029, so 3 more years. And Inaki has now joined Elche on a loan until next summer. And as you can see in the picture, it's actually official. He's already wearing the Elche kit, which I know it looks just like the Barcelona kit because, of course, Nike, it's like they don't have any creative people. They just do the same shit for all the teams and fuck it. But anyways, Inaki Pena is officially an Elche goalkeeper until the next summer of 2026, as he has left on loan. Again, his contract has been extended until 2029. And there's more good news, because now with the departure of Inaki Pena, Barcelona will now officially be able to register Wojciech Szczęsny. Yes, that is how you say it correctly. I know when I used to say it at the beginning, people were like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, that's how you say it. So that's why I started saying Szczęsny, because apparently you have to say things wrong for people to be happy. But anyways, Wojciech Szczęsny, or Tech, will now be able to be registered in the place of Inaki Pena, who has now joined Elche. All right, let's get back to the comment section. And then we are going to talk about Fermin Lopez, who, if he was Brazilian, his name would be Ferminho. All right, let's see. Mahmoud says, do you really think we would lose a player like Fermin? We'll talk about that in a little bit. By the way, lose is spelled L-O-S-E. When it's double O, it's loose. Like your mama's loose. Oh, damn. Just kidding, of course. Leo says, hi, Mo. I got a question for you. We offloaded about 12 players, but yet we probably will still struggle to register players. My question is the 1-1 rule affecting our financial fair play, or were we ever close? Yeah, so when you're not under the 1-1 rule, you cannot reinvest all of the money that you made off a sale. For example, we're now under the 60% rule. If you sell a player for 100 million, you can only use 60% of that, which is 60 million, to sign a new player, not the entire 100, right? You get the 100, you put 40 away, and you can only use 60 to register someone else. Same goes for the salary of that player. If that player had a 10 million euro salary, you cannot go and register another player with 10 million euro salary in his place. Instead, you can only use 60% of that salary, which is 6 million. So you offload someone with a 10 million salary. Now you have to register someone with a 6 million salary in his place. So not being on the 1-1 rule definitely affects you. And my man Shin with the donation says, every time I'm in the dumps about being a Barca supporter, Man United are there always to pick me up. Who today were booted from the League Cup second round by fourth tier Grimsby Town, 12-11 on penalties. I love life sometimes. God damn. 12-11. Wait, did the goalkeepers participate? Oh my God, 12. That's a very long penalty shootout. And who the hell is Grimsby? I mean, seriously, how you get knocked out by a team who name is Grimsby? But yeah, no. Don't ever feel bad about the situation at our club because, like Shin said, there's always Man U, man. There's always Man U, you're like, there's always Madrid, man. Imagine being Madrid and spending a fortune on so many players, and then get spanked by Barcelona and a bunch of teenagers 4 times in a row. Like, but anyways, thank you, my friend, for your donation. And Edward says, Mo, my bro, you're a Barca member. Who do you think about adding a remembrance tile wall to the pillar or a walkway at the Camp Nou at $100 a tile? That would make a ton of money. So yeah, that's part of the whole Spy Barca project. You can put whoever you want, which yeah, it's a good money maker. You know, the club are trying to figure out. They're kind of following the American model where stadiums are not just money generators just from the people who go there. You know, they try to pretty much exploit every square foot of the place. You know, it's restaurants, food vendors, merchandise vendors, things like that. Put in tiles, music, stuff, events, blah, blah, blah. So, which, you know, it's good. The stadium's going to generate a lot of money. My only concern is that the tickets keep getting more and more expensive, which is making football, that's supposed to be a relatively affordable sport, a little bit too expensive. And Leo Fold says, hey, Mo, I got a question for you. We offloaded about... Oh, wait. I already read that. And Chuchu says, Joe has one of the highest ceilings at La Masia. He's my favorite Barca player right now after Marc Bernal. Yeah, he really does. He really does. But we got to take our time with him, right? We cannot risk it and just throw him to the wolves and be like, all right, you're going to be playing with the first team and starting with... We need to take our time with him slowly, you know, get him some minutes here, some minutes there. Because, you know, if you rush someone too fast, you can end up ruining their career. But yeah, I do believe that Dro has an incredibly high ceiling. Let's take our time with him. There's no rush. We have plenty of midfielders. It's not like, oh, our midfielders suck. We need someone right now. Let's take our time. Let's let him grow, let him develop, let him mature. And then I'm sure we're going to have many years of beautiful football by Dro. All right, one more comment, and then we will go back to the news. But Rajnikant says, hi, Mo. Good to see you live again. I am from India. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining. And with that, let's get back to the last bit of news, because we do have to talk, of course, about the big elephant in the room. And that is Fermin Lopez, because, of course, there's been a lot of talk about Fermin Lopez, with Chelsea tabling an offer worth 50, or they're saying it was 50 million pounds, so it comes up to close to 58 million euros. But for the sake of argument, let's just say 50. But Chelsea have, of course, tabled a 50 million euro offer for Fermin Lopez. They are offering him to pay him a much higher salary. Some reports say double, some reports say triple. Either way, Fermin Lopez is going to make a lot more money at Chelsea than he's currently making at Barcelona. Barcelona, of course, could make money off his transfer as well. And, of course, the big question is Fermin Lopez leaving? Is he staying? What is the official version of the club? Now, the official version of FC Barcelona is that they're not looking to sell Fermin Lopez, and that the only way they would sell him would be if the player asks to leave. So Fermin says, yes, I want to go to Chelsea and make double or triple or however they want to pay him. Then Barcelona will sit down with Chelsea and negotiate. Now, if that does happen, if Fermin Lopez does tell Barcelona, hey, I want to leave, then Barcelona are going to want more than the 50 million that Chelsea are offering, which I think it's pretty fair. I would not sell Fermin Lopez for anything less than 70 million. Now, in the case of Fermin Lopez, his circle or his entourage are currently stating that Fermin is not looking to leave. that he wants to stay at Barcelona. So as of now, the player is wanting to stay put. The club not looking to sell him unless he changes his mind. And of course, as I told you in yesterday's video, Chelsea have given him 48 hours to either accept or reject the deal. I'm guessing 24 hours have already passed by, so Fermin probably has another 24 hours if he decides to change their mind, not his mind. Now, whatever happens, whatever he decides to stay or leave, I do want to say a couple of things about this. This is very similar to what I was saying about Casado. And there are two things that piss me off about this whole thing. And it's that, number one, I have a feeling that all of this is orchestrated by Laporta and his board. Why? Because they sold us the lie that, oh, the Nike deal is going to give us to the 1-1. A year later, that hasn't happened. Then it was like, oh, don't worry. It's the VIP seats deal. That's going to get us to the 1-1. That didn't happen. Oh, it's going to happen by June. Didn't happen. Don't worry. The report is coming second half of July. Didn't happen. Oh, don't worry. It's going to come at the beginning of August. Didn't happen. And now the board are pretty much believing that it's not going to happen this summer. So now that it hasn't happened 2 years in a row, 2 summers in a row, I feel that this is Laporta and his board trying to save their own ass and figure out a way to achieve the 1-1 rule by how? Selling La Masia players. Because as I said before when I was talking about Casado, it's no coincidence that the moment Barcelona find out that the 1-1 rule was not going to happen, all of a sudden we start hitting Fermin. This club is interested in Fermin. This club is interested in Fermin. Fermin comes out, says, I'm not leaving. Flick says he's not leaving. All of a sudden we start hearing Casado. Casado comes out, says, I'm not leaving. Flick says he's not leaving. Plays him in the match, and now all of a sudden again, Fermin. This is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. This is clearly the board trying to save their ass by, well, turning to the academy and selling club's assets, because these are what these players are. They're club assets in order to save their own ass, because all these lies about we're going to achieve the 1-1 rule with this, and we're going to do a bake sale and sell tamales, and that's how we're going to achieve. None of it has come to fruition. The second point of why this pisses me off, because La Masia is always a great way to score points, politically speaking. Oh, every campaign. Oh, La Masia. Oh, we love La Masia. La Masia is the heart and soul of this club. La Masia. But yet you look at what the board is actually doing, and it doesn't seem like they're true believers in La Masia. I mean, sure, they have relied on La Masia, but the question begs, are we relying on La Masia because we truly do believe in it, or because it's an economical necessity? Because we signed Vitor Roque for 60+ million euros when we had Margiu completely free. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Margiu is all that. But neither was Vitor Roque. So if we're going to have a shitty number 9, might as well have a shitty number 9 from the academy who cost us nothing versus spending 60 million on Vitor Roque. Right? Oh, La Masia. We go sign Dani Olmo, which, yes, he technically is from the academy, but he left. When we had Fermin Lopez, who cost us, again, nothing. And Dani Olmo cost us 60 million. So, again, do we truly, and when I say we, the board, does the board truly believe in La Masia? Or is it, I believe in La Masia while we broke, but the moment I have money in my pocket, I'm definitely going to go spend it somewhere else? Anyways, I'll let you guys answer that question. Let's do the comment section. That is all the news for this podcast, but let's do the comment section. Let's do a few more comments, and then we will end the live. And of course, later tonight, I will be doing a video. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, tomorrow I am leaving on a short trip, short vacation, 5-day. Don't worry though, I'm taking my camera with me, and I will be doing videos while I'm on my trip, as I always do. Of course, they will be live videos, 10, 12 minutes. They're not podcasts, so I won't be reading comments. It's just to keep you up to date while I'm on trip and vacation. No podcast on Friday, no watch along on the weekend, but of course, daily videos, because news doesn't stop, and well, neither do I, even when I'm on vacation. All right, let's see. Super Eye says, hey, Mo, will you talk about the Champions League draw tomorrow? The Champions! Yeah, I guess I could. I was going to mention a little bit in the next video. We'll see what the draw is. I think it's It's gonna be interesting. I really like the new format of the Champions League, even though it's more matches, so it's more exhausting on the players. But and plus, when I get to talk about the Champions League draw or the Champions League period, I get to say "Hello, champions," which is my favorite part about the champions. Same Babs says, "Hey Mo, this is Babs. I love your content. It's always up till date. Keep it up." Thank you, my friend. Thank you for watching and for your comment. And Mike Valencia says, "I seen that score. I love Man U fan tears." And Jorge Cerda says, "Mowing my lawn while listening to the latest Barca news." All right. Is it a little bit late to be mowing your lawn? Are you doing this on purpose? Are you pissing off your neighbors? I'm kidding. Oh, wait. All right, did this. El Cedre says, "What's up, Mo? When is the next elections?" 2026, so next year. Danny says, "What is Oriol Romeo still doing in the club?" I'll talk about him in the next video. Richard says, "Hi, Bo. How are you, bro? Hopefully you are doing pretty well. Keep up the good work." Thank you, my friend. Thank you for watching and for your comment. And Arnold says, "I don't understand why some fans are angry when the club offload young talent. Not all talent in La Masia will break through in the first team, knowing that La Masia produces talent every single year." True, true. My only concern sometimes with these offloadings is the price. Like, yeah, of course, not every La Masia player is going to make it to the first team. When you produce 10 center midfielders, obviously not all 10 are going to make it. But I think we do have to do a better job of selling and get a little bit more money. Like, for example, Iman Cospo, I think we sold him for, what was it, 400 or 500,000? That was crazy to me. And no, I'm not saying it because people are like, Iman Cospo, my next Maldini. It's like, chill, guys. You've never even heard of him before today. But I think we could have gotten more than 500,000. I mean, I thought that was a little bit low. Aziz says, "Why is it taking so long to finish the construction work at Camp Nou? Deadline after deadline have passed." Because it's a major project. Major projects, well, they take time, my friend. This is not just slap a fresh coat of paint on a stadium and call it a day. They literally demolished everything, like the whole structure around the two rings. They completely demolished it, right? They refurbished the two rings and they built an entire brand new structure with foundation and everything, right? And an underground parking lot. I mean, it's a huge construction project. This is not just wrap the stadium with some metal like they did in Madrid and call it a day. So of course, major construction sites, well, they take time. Delays are inevitable. They happen. That's fine. The problem is the lying. No, you don't need to lie to us, Laporta. We know that this is gonna take a while. We understand that this is gonna take a while. Stop lying to us. Shin says, "I got a busy Saturday this weekend. My number one Texas Longhorns open their season against number 2 Ohio State, along with all my other football I gotta watch." Damn, you do have a busy weekend. That's a lot of homework. I don't watch football, American football, but that sounds like a really good match, or I guess game, not match. Number 1 versus number 2 seed. That sounds like a really good game. Funny thing is, I played football, but I just never got into watching it. It's kind of like MMA. I like to practice MMA, but I not necessarily watch it. I don't know why. I guess my full attention is on, football, soccer, not American football or other sports. Street Fighter says, "No creo que queremos vender a Fermin. Es su elección. A Chelsea siempre quiere a todos." Yeah. Honestly, if I was... Oh, sorry. Let me translate. Street Fighter says, "I don't think we want to sell Fermin. It's his choice, and Chelsea always wants everyone." Here's the thing. So right now, the Fermin is saying that he wants to stay, and the club are saying that they don't want to sell him unless he asks to be sold. But here's the thing. Even if Fermin says, "You know what, F this, I want to leave," I think it would be a huge mistake to leave to Chelsea. Because, I mean, come on. They have a squad of 700 people. If Fermin truly does want to leave, I think he should just go somewhere else. Definitely not Chelsea. I think it would be a big, big mistake. Mathematics says, "Mo, where is Ronaldinho's son?" He signed for an English team in the second division. I can't remember their name, but he did not work out at the academy at the academy. I think he was with Juvenila. He did not work out. Let me see what team. I know he signed for an English team. João Mendes. Here we go. He has signed for... Bum, bum, bidum, bum, bum, bidum, bum. Where is he? João Mendes. Let me see. Burnley. That's where he plays. So it's a second division English team. That's who he signed for. Did not work out at Barca at all. So yeah, which is unfortunate. Let's see. Damien says yes. Chelsea has a lot of players. Mean. He. Agree. And Chuchu says at some point Firmino Casado would leave Barca because they never gonna be starters. Well, they don't have to be starters to stay, right? You still need substitutes. I think Casado is a great substitute. Would be a great substitute for Bernal. I think that's who we should have bet on instead of Frankie. Not because Casado is necessarily better than Frankie, but I'd much rather bet on an academy player and have Bernal as a starter and Casado as his sub. I think that would be much better. I would rather have, that Droa and Fermin fighting for the attacking midfield position, even though I do think Droa is much better. And yes, Olmo is an academy player, and yes, Olmo is technically better than Fermin, but we didn't need to pay 60 million. But anyways, Easy Snipe says, hi Mo, what amount of money the club need to raise before returning to the 1-to-1 rule? That I cannot answer because I haven't seen the figures from the fiscal year that just ended. Those numbers have not been released yet, but when they are, don't worry, I'll make a video. I got you. And Jay says what Chelsea been doing is actually smart. They're just recycling the money over and over again by buying players, send them to loan, and then sell. But here's the thing: I don't know if it's been recycling because a lot of times they buy and then they sell on the low, so they lose money. Plus, even if you buy and sell for the same price, you're still losing money because you're paying taxes, you're paying agents, you're paying bonuses. So it's not really smart. You're losing money there. Even if you buy a player for 50 mil and you sell him for 50 mil, once you're done paying the taxes and all the commissions and bonuses and blah, 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 you end up maybe getting 40 out of that 50. So... and that has not been the case. A lot of the players that Chelsea has bought, they have sold for less. So I don't know if I call it that smart. Losing money is not smart. Unless, of course, it happens out of your control. But when I honestly don't know where they're getting all this money. It's crazy to me. Is Todd Bowley does he own like a money printer at home? It's crazy. But anyways. Edwin says Chelsea's wage bill is surprisingly low compared to ours. So... they released this report that shows the two highest wage bills in Europe is Barca and Madrid. Well, Madrid and Barca. Madrid is higher, which is crazy because you look at how much money Premier League pays in transfer fees. And even though they're paying much, much more, their salaries are still lower, which tells you that we're doing something wrong here. Because why are our salaries so high? That goes for Madrid too. But anyways. That is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, your incredibly generous donations. I will be posting another video later tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, be scars.